Hello, everyone. We are on episode 21. In this episode, I talk with Aurelio Duarte Encinas, who is a licensed professional counselor, about toxic positivity, what it is, why constant positivity can be bad, and what can be done about it if you find yourself in that situation. First, I'd like to let everyone know about an awesome giveaway Body and Mind Strong is doing. If you have some health and fitness goals you want to conquer this year, you need to check out the Crushing Goals 2021 giveaway and enter for a chance to win one of two spots for my total coaching program. This program includes monthly one-on-one video or phone sessions and weekly check-ins for 3 months. That's right, 3 months. Personalized fitness plan, diet guidance, goal setting, stress management, and more. If interested in entering, email me at bodyandmindstrong@gmail.com for more information. Or you can check out my page, bodyandmindstrong.com, and on the main page, a pop-up will show with the information for it. And most importantly, no purchase is necessary. Yes, it's free to enter, so what do you got to lose? All right, let the podcast begin. Welcome back to another episode of the Body and Mind Strong podcast, where we talk all things life, fitness, and health. My name is Renee. I'm your host and integrated health coach. The Body and Mind Strong podcast was established to help others create a healthier, happier, stronger self. For more information, please follow me on YouTube and Facebook at Body and Mind Strong. You can also find me at www.bodyandmindstrong.com. I hope you enjoy the following podcast. Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's Renee, Body and Mind Strong, and today I have a guest I have been actually kind of excited about being on. It is an old friend that we have known, I think, since '07.
I think so.
Yeah, Aurelio Duarte Encinas. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. We actually, just quick, we've known each other, I think, since '07, because I don't think we met in school, but we started our internship / post work right out of grad school at the same time, at the same place at Mountain Park.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked together, I think, was it 7 years during that time, something like that?
Well, I was there I think you hung out later than I did. I was there about 4 years.
Okay, yeah. I hung out a little bit longer to make sure I got my hours. And then, that's when I boogied off to Washington and took off.
Yeah.
So really, if you would like to introduce yourself really quick and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm a master's level counselor, and I have been licensed since 2008. And I've split that time between community behavioral health, working with children, families, and adults, and also the rest of the time working within the integrated behavioral health department within primary care, which is where I met you.
Yes.
So I have a lot of experience in working with people struggling with chronic health issues, focusing on the connection between the stress and the development of lots of chronic health issues. So the mind-body perspective is something that I'm really big on, and I use in my work with clients now in counseling in my own private practice, which I just started this month. I've been working towards a certification in somatic experiencing, and so that's something that I'm really interested in. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
No.
It's all about how stress affects the central nervous system. So stress, chronic stress, anxiety, trauma, and kind of working with the central nervous system and helping regulate it so that people are able to move from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. So when we're talking about PTSD and all that, it's people getting stuck in the sympathetic. And so always kind of being in this state of arousal or in the flight mode where the fight, the flight, and the freeze. So it's either people go into the fight mode where they're always triggered, or the flight mode where they're avoidant and not able to deal with stressors, or the freeze where they're always going into this parasympathetic freeze and just kind of not really being in touch with everything going on. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, I really love it. It's kind of an option to EMDR. So the way that I learned about somatic experiencing and its connection with EMDR, somatic experiencing is really focusing on the body and not so much the story. So it's a bottom up approach, because
Mm-hmm.
you work with the body and you make progress. Eventually, the story does come out, but it's not the focal point. Whereas with EMDR, the story is the focal point, and you hope to integrate the body in that work and helping the people go into the parasympathetic. But I find myself a lot more comfortable doing the bottom up approach with somatic experiencing. But so that's been something I've been focusing a lot on, and and I see right now my clients all virtually, uh,
Mm-hmm.
thanks to COVID and all that. But
Yes.
it's nice. You can do a lot. Somatic experiencing does have a touch component to it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm able oftentimes to teach people how to use those techniques with their significant others, or engage in other kind of techniques where they can kind of engage in touch and helping provide comfort and regulation. So
Oh, how interesting. Yes, and I like that the COVID part, how everything changed. It's amazing. I was just thinking about this yesterday with working with some of my clients too. It's even though everyone seems to be focused on like stuff shutting down, things you can't do anymore, certain things or precautions people take, it's actually opened up some doors and it's opened up new avenues, which is kind of amazing. Like working with my clients, that
mm-hmm.
it makes it so much not easier, but being able to meet with your clients are easier than them having to drive across the town or trying to meet you, or, it takes out that component. It makes it a little bit easier to meet with your clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So interesting. Nice. Well, I brought Aurelia on because I recently, working with some of my clients, have heard the term toxic positivity, and this was completely new to me. For most of you who know, I did the integrated behavior health, so I too love that whole body and mind connection. But I hadn't done much counseling recently, just more coaching. And so, working with my clients that's coming out, I was like, "Is this the term?" I just was going through the counseling world and I just missed it because I hadn't been doing it for about 10 months, or, what was new. So I contacted Aurelia. I was like, hey, jump on, let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
this and see, and just chit chat about it and kind of educational and find out more about it. So,
Yeah, sounds
nice.
good. So,
Awesome.
I when you brought it up, I actually kind of haven't been. I've been hearing about it myself recently as well. Um, so, and some people have some anger about the toxic positivity, and I think with reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because like all things, I think in some ways, many things can be very, very good for us. But if you take something to a certain limit, within the spectrum, it can actually maybe be not so useful. So
Mm-hmm.
positivity, you might ask yourself, well, how can being positive be unhelpful or toxic?
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's in relation to um, your engaging with other people, or even in terms of how you perceive your life and the world, and really uh, trying to either avoid acknowledging that bad things do happen. So it's kind of like somebody that says that you always have to have a positive feeling or perspective. Well, that's not true. Sometimes things are bad. Sometimes we do hurt. Sometimes we do have pain, and so it's important to acknowledge those things. one example of somebody not acknowledging that would be, if somebody died and someone told you, oh, but you had such a great time with that person. So, you have nothing but, thanks to give for that. Well, okay, it's true. You might have had a good experience with somebody, with a friend or a family member, but you still hurt. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of acknowledge both, definitely. And in terms of helping us be resilient and being able to progress and move forward in our lives, it's important to acknowledge the negatives. The positive stuff will happen, you know, um, but yeah, it's important to acknowledge the negative things. So sometimes we get into maybe kind of pop psychology and you know um, thinking, oh yeah, I need to have a positive perspective about everything, but not really. No,
Mm-hmm.
we need to have a realistic perspective and try to see how, from whatever we're experiencing, how we can have hope. Um,
Definitely. Yeah, because when I first heard about it, I looked up and I found an article on Psychology Today, and
mhm,
this is a quote from it. What it had stated: the phrase "toxic positivity" refers to the concept that keeping positive and keeping positive only is
mhm,
the right way to live your life. It means only focusing on the positive things and rejecting anything that may trigger negative emotions, which is
mhm,
pretty much what you've said.
mhm,
So, but I like it's like you said, it's interesting because it's rejecting all negative emotions, and emotions is something that we need. Emotions help us figure out or make sense of things.
mhm.
Happiness is emotion, sadness is emotion.
Yeah,
Being nervous before getting in front of your, like, doing your peers at work to do a presentation, it's telling you, it's something exciting or something different. It's just making you aware there's some changes going on, as
right.
an
Yeah,
example. Yeah.
yeah, and everything. Well, and it's okay to be nervous, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, So, and if you're nervous, you're going to do something to prepare or to study or to do a good job. If you're not nervous, you might not be all that concerned about things. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Being nervous, anxious kind of sometimes keeps you on your toes, and actually, it can actually be a kind of a positive thing, a good thing.
mhm,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. But I like what you said earlier, and I can't remember what you exactly said, but it was along the lines that of one of my favorite quotes that I like to use because I use it a lot with food is, the poison is in the dose. You
Hmm.
know, food, there's no bad food out there. Food is good. Food gives you energy. The poison is how much you eat of it is what causes the problem.
Sure.
In lieu, the being positive is a good thing, but if you're constantly focused on it and avoiding the negative, that's where problems will arise.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And conversely, if you dwell on the negative, I mean, that's not going to be good either. But
true.
it's
Hmm.
about having kind of a balanced perspective on things. So,
Yeah.
but
And
some other examples, though, of the
mhm.
toxic positivity are in relation to enabling. So, for instance, um, let's say that you're in a relationship and of any kind, and um, there's something about that particular relationship that's negative, and somebody that you talk to just tells you to always turn the other cheek,
Mhm.
right? And just kind of like, yeah, just ignore it, just turn the other cheek, and it's okay, right? Well, no, because if you're in any kind of relationship, whatever it is, even a professional relationship, uh, the way that you interact with others and the way that they respond and interact with you, that's important, right? So I remember one person I used to work with when I worked in state government who would always be yelling and cussing at people, you know. and I wasn't happy with turning the other cheek. So if I had ever get to work with that person directly, I would have refused because I didn't want to be treated that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sometimes people perpetuate negative behavior, um, and just encouraging you to be the better person, but that's not necessarily always the right thing to do. Um, so kind of having a positive perspective or attitude about that kind of behavior is, that's just not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
With like sending your kid to school and knowing that they'll be bullied, and yeah, that's okay. No, that's not right.
Yeah.
And then there's from there, that enabling, there's kind of like a broader sociological issue with enabling. Um, for instance, take some sort of a situation like a humanitarian situation, and someone says, "Oh, I don't care if those people die or whatever." Well, that's a matter of it can be a matter of injustice. It can be a humanitarian issue. That you really value, that's important to you, that most people would find important. So like I've read uh, news art periodicals that maybe talk about somebody saying that people that are crossing the border should be shot. And saying, no, I don't think that's correct. Where everyone's life, I think, is important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something where I would stand, um, against somebody trying to say, oh, well, but that's okay because those people, it's okay to treat them a certain way, and not those other people. So no, that's something that bothers me, and I can't just turn the other cheek or move forward and think that it's all positive. So it's important to stand up for yourself and what your thoughts are, what your beliefs are, and it's good to be empathetic towards the people who may be encouraging you to just be positive about everything, and try to maybe give them an opportunity to explain themselves. But what options, you know, uh, kind of challenge them, and asking them to see what options they have for you. If
Mm-hmm.
if I value life, then and people, and I don't believe that people should be shot crossing the border, or somebody should be shot because they stole a loaf of bread because they're hungry. What option do you think there could be instead? And kind of like trying to force them to see your point. But yeah, it's important to stand up for yourself and what you value. Uh,
Definitely, definitely.
yeah.
And it was kind of interesting too, because kind of reading through this, they talked about some of why toxic positivity is bad for us. Because part of it is shaming, which is this, you see that a lot in society when you don't follow what society deems as normal. Where if there are like everything has to be positive and you're having a bad day, you're feeling bad, you feel bad about yourself because you can't be positive because everyone is expecting that of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, it can be a little shaming as well at the same time.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It can force this expectation of us being, perfect, or um, always having to be agreeable.
Yeah.
But we're not perfect in any way, and nobody is, and so we need to be able to hold space, and and let each other be what we are, and to be there for each other still.
Exactly. Yeah. Support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then another form of positive toxic positivity can be, maybe people that are two-faced, in some way. Um, so let's say somebody who um, maybe they have an interest in gaining a certain, a position, or, or power. And so because of that, maybe they want to have a certain position within a company, and maybe their boss is very rude or unprofessional or what have you, but they don't do anything about it, and they're like, oh yeah, no, that person's good, and things are good, it's a perfect situation. But that can be toxic positivity too, because here they are putting themselves in this situation where they're not really being treated well, and
and they don't want to make any waves because they're trying to move up.
yeah. So it's important to really stand up for yourself, and acknowledge things that are happening, kind of like we say, using I statements and saying, hey, I see this happening and I feel this way. But ultimately, again, it's about acknowledging yourself and your values, and your own self-worth, and being honest with that. So it can be difficult, though. It can be challenging, because people might be afraid of doing that. But it's a skill that we all learn, and communicating with others effectively.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
One of the things I also read is about they're talking about like suppressed emotions, and I found this interesting because within that, and also they talk about like avoidance, and avoidance is something, as counselors it's part, I don't know how you would phrase this. It's been part of counseling for long as, for a very long time. And so we've always talked about avoidance and so forth. So toxic positivity is just really about avoidance. You're trying to avoid something that doesn't make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, let's see if I can connect this straight. Let's see. Like I have a little bit of anxiety of leaving the house, constantly double checking. So I will avoid certain behaviors if I don't have to go through that. But when you avoid it, you don't face it straight on and deal with it and learn how to deal with it.
Right.
The anxiety is okay. You just learn how to deal with it. It may not go away. It's there, but you can deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and in dealing with it, basically you can become more resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And and then there's ways to dealing with it that might be gradual, or some people like to do it, like they say, like flood it, and just kind of throw yourself into the uncomfortable situation and just kind of get through it. But if you don't face it in any way, then you're spending a lot of effort and energy and worry and just trying to avoid it, right? And the anxiety and depression. Yes. And so so it's important to be upfront with things. And I know, I can imagine in your area of concentration, working with people and their fitness and their health, those are very touchy issues, right? And people probably try to avoid having to confront a lot of realities about their habits or.
Yeah, what's just interesting is I don't know if they're trying to avoid it. It's to them, it's not an issue. They don't realize stuff in their lives, how it impacts their health, both physically and mentally. They think losing weight is a completely separate component than how you're feeling. And it's amazing how people just automatically just draw that straight black line down between it and make it a complete different thing. And they don't realize how much, the stress in your life, your lack of sleep because you've got so many things on your plate, how that's impacting, all those negative things, negative feelings or negative actions or actions that just are draining is impacting their health and weight loss or just getting healthier. Right. So it's amazing. It's like they just don't even think about it. It's just like.
Sure. Yeah. Or, like people not sleeping well
Mhm.
and not maintaining, healthy eating habits, whatever, in terms of the timing and the frequency of eating or what they eat, not exercising, not engaging in good, proper stress management skills. And I think today we're so focused on productivity and,
Mhm.
and I think that's the key word, productivity, but being successful and, um, but we suppress all these things, that are probably oftentimes shouting to us and trying to get our attention, that we need to really live a different way. Uh,
Yes.
so, I mean, and doing my private practice, one reason why I'm doing it is because I want to have a better quality of life, and so, um, yeah. So, um, but a lot of times in being successful and being productive, we kind of, uh, neglect that.
Mhm. Definitely. And I like how you said earlier, you mentioned saving space for a person for, to take care of each other. And I like that having space in the way of like with the clients I've worked with, we talk about how things are going to get better. We're going to focus on moving forward. But if you need to cry, take a few minutes, step aside,
Mm-hmm.
and cry. If you just need to sit there for 10 minutes and just feel the emotion and let it out instead of keeping it in, it's okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
completely okay to have those feelings. Let them out, and then you get up and you keep going. And then when you need to have that moment again, you have that moment again, and
Yeah.
then you get up and keep going. So
Yeah.
it's a, yeah,
Yeah. Instead of labeling it or judging it or
exactly.
yeah, we're human beings, and so when we feel like crying, there's a reason for it, and so it's the central nervous system and the body and your psyche and your emotions, and yeah, it just happens.
I describe it as a pressure cooker. You got to let it out somewhere, and it's
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to explode somewhere. Whether it's having heart disease, diabetes, bad, some kind of health issues or mental health issues, physical or mental, it's going to come out somehow. So, what's the healthiest way to let it out? You know, cry or just sit there and just feel
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and that's another point that I read in when I was looking up information about toxic positivity, and that it's important to recognize when you are um, trying to connect with somebody who is trying to perpetuate toxic positivity. Those are ultimately going to likely be people that you don't really get what you need from. You know,
Hmm.
you're not going to get that support, uh, that acknowledgement, of what you're experiencing through some of those people. So it's important to find people that or places that do, give you that opportunity in that space. Um, so, if you have a family member, for example, that, is into the toxic positivity thing, well, just kind of know, what things to expect and what things to talk about and not necessarily talk about, because they may not be there for you the way that you want them to.
You know, that's a good leeway that you went into because I've had a couple of clients that are like they have it at work and they don't know how to deal with it. So if you're in a situation like work, family, and you're surrounded by it, what would be some good ways to cope with it? Because like you said, it's going to be there, expect it. So I'm wondering what some things people could do to kind of, you know, deal with it, I
Hmm.
guess.
Well, if that's
So,
something that they're experiencing everywhere within their life, I mean that would definitely be of concern. So
mhm.
that's going to demonstrate that there's some sort of a pattern, obviously. And so, in order to break the pattern, well, you're going to have to start doing something differently. Um, I think if at minimum being aware of how you feel and where you sit with certain things. So I think maybe journaling can be helpful. Journaling about certain situations and in what situations did you feel validated, or did you feel that you had that space? And in what situations do you feel that you don't have that validation or that support to be honest with what your experience is?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're invested in trying to improve that situation, like at work, trying to see if you can talk to, if it's your boss or a colleague, asking them if you can talk to them privately. um, Trying to use I statements, where you're focusing on how you feel, and and what you're observing, when such a thing happens, how you feel about that, and trying to share with them what you would like, to see happen instead. Um,
Yeah, I like that, the journaling aspect, having that outlet, finding your outlets, like talking at work. If you try to talk your superior who's creating this environment and it doesn't work, what's another avenue? Having the journal to,
yeah,
seek counseling or counseling,
yeah.
um, finding that outlet where you can let some of that out. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, at a minimum, the journaling. But I mean, I would recommend counseling, but beyond
Yes.
that, also finding opportunities where you can um, vocalize your needs. What your wants or your desires, things that you're unhappy about. As you do, you're this hypothetical person, I imagine, is probably really good at sharing when they are happy about something, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So it's about kind of being able to do both. So it can be maybe when you out and you got a coffee, and I don't know, maybe they didn't make it correctly or something. Well, just let them know. Just kind of taking that practice, in different everyday situations, and you kind of start developing that muscle, you know, and being aware too, like in the body, when you're in that experience, is not just going to be here logically, but it's also going to show up in the body. Maybe your throat, it kind of becomes difficult to swallow, or maybe your chest becomes tense, or your breathing changes, and those are all indications of maybe there's something that you need to do. And having that awareness, you can engage in different kinds of techniques to soothe you, to help you deal with the stress, to ground yourself, and maybe that opens the opportunity to have some of these conversations. So yeah, and
Nice.
and not
Yeah.
necessarily forcing yourself to have it in that moment. If you feel very triggered and uncomfortable and tense, maybe give yourself a few moments to kind of regulate, and when you feel prepared, then maybe going to that person and seeing if you can speak with them privately. So uh, be fair with yourself when you take that when you try to do that.
Definitely. So, and then from the opposite side, if you have, let's say, a friend coming up to you that's having a crappy day,
Mhm.
be aware of how much you are pushing on to them about, feeling better. Yeah. If someone is just having a crappy day, they're like, don't sit there and be like, well, it could be worse.
Right.
Or,
Sure. Yeah.
just
Well,
get
yeah.
over it, move on, think about the future.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because I kind of used to think of this as a joke. I love stand up comedy, and I don't know. I can kind of see this maybe as a sort of a joke, but if you think about who has it worse off in the entire world, right? Like it has to
Mhm.
be somebody that not only is living under horrible circumstances, but also nobody cares, right? So it's like, yes, who cares, Bob? Whatever. So like, so bad that nobody even has any empathy or sympathy for that person, where was I going with that? But uh, oh yeah, so there's always going to be like, oh yeah, but the kids in Africa, or oh yeah, but the blah blah blah, or oh yeah, my neighbor, he has two cancers at once, not just one.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, there's always going to be somebody uh, who's under worse circumstances, but this is your life, right? So
And it doesn't minimize the pain you go through. It's
no, yeah,
not,
yeah,
I hear that from clients. I'm like, yes, it could definitely, I tell clients it can definitely be worse, but that doesn't minimize what you're going through right now.
yeah,
Yeah. Your,
absolutely,
your feelings are your feelings.
yeah. But I think a lot of that is cultural, though,
Hmm.
and maybe even societal, like you know, um,
Don't worry, be happy.
yeah,
Or maybe,
we just pay attention to the the Kardashians and wealth and all that, and um, but nobody, there isn't a lot of empathy in the world, and so, but we have to learn to do it for ourselves, and
yeah,
then
yeah, that's where social media just drives me nuts. I don't know if part of it's just the generation I came from, and we didn't have that growing up, so we have a different perspective of it. But it's all you see is positive things on Facebook, and so it can make you feel like everyone else's life is perfect, and then you're like, why am I feeling this way? My life is crap. So it can be more of a negative for you because all you see, like, everyone has these great lives. And I could tell you from working as a counselor, no, they don't.
no,
People can have the greatest face out there, but behind it they have their own issues.
no,
There's
it's true, yeah, yeah, no, it's true, yeah, and there is that I don't know, there is awareness of social media, basically perpetuating depression, right? Because everyone just sees that the great life, presumably,
Mhm.
and compared to their own, and but yeah, that's not real. But what is real is, like the Buddhists say, suffering and pain, and that is life. Like you mentioned, all these positive messages. When have you seen greeting cards that are really, really honest? And I had
Yeah.
to look some up for a friend of mine that's been in the hospital since September, and I found some, that says like, yeah, sorry, your life sucks, or things of that nature, because sometimes that's what it is, you
Right.
know. Uh, but what you can do is, give somebody a hug, or just listen to them, or just be there for them, and so we all go through that, and uh, but yeah, so if you can give that space and that comfort to somebody, they'll get over it, and then you move on.
Just really quick to step back about, one of the quotes I've heard, and I kind of like it. I don't know if anyone else has heard, is like from Jim Carrey. He goes, "I think everyone should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dream, so they can see that it's not the answer." And I think Facebook kind of shows you like, oh, you can be a millionaire. Look how great my life is. Get everything you want. Your life will be perfect once you have it, and
Yeah,
it's.
yeah. Well, like the rapper Notorious B.I.G. Was it him, or was that is this Jay-Z? More money, more problems, right? So you have a lot of money, you got to manage your money. You don't want to lose it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we all uh, go through tough times, and that's what life is, Um, but it's important to acknowledge it, and I think once we do acknowledge it, then we're able to grow through it, right?
Yeah.
You have a scar on your body, and but and that's okay. Right? You still have your arm.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that scar has a story. It
yeah,
made you who you are today. You
yeah,
know, what was it? You can't hate your history because that's who you are today. If you hate what made you today, then you don't like who you are now. So that, that scar. There's a story behind it, made you who you are, gave you an
Yeah.
adventure, or something happened, you learned from it, you became a better person, or you have a funny story from it, or,
Yeah. Sure. But just in our conversation, it's easy to see how easily we can go into like focusing on the negative and then kind of making it a positive, right?
Yeah.
It's all about acknowledging both, and so
Balance.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
But yeah, so
nice. All
yeah.
right.
I don't know if you have anything else about it.
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah,
I think we talked a lot. We got a lot of good stuff out of that. I like that.
yeah.
It's good. I hope someone learned from this and got some good info out of this.
Hmm.
So, if someone is interested in counseling, where can they find you?
Well, in the state of Arizona, which
Okay.
is where I'm licensed, um, my website is ADE, which is my initials, counseling.com. Um, I am contracted right now with a company called Sondermind.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they help me engage with clients that are credentialed with certain insurances. So if you have insurance, you can try to engage in Sondermind and through there, or you can just contact me. And if you happen to have one of those insurances, basically I can bring you into Sondermind, and then we can work together that way. Or
Okay.
if you have a different insurance, I can also offer a super bill, which people can then provide to the insurance company and get some form of compensation in return.
Okay.
Or people can also do private pay. So
All right. And I will have I'll have all your website, his information, Aurelio's information in the show notes as well. So if you're interested, check him out. So
sounds good.
and I'm really hoping I can get him on. Hopefully, you guys will message him and let him know that this was a great podcast and maybe we can do some more soon.
I hope so. That would be fun, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And if I can be of any help to any of your audience members, let me know.
Because I think there's so many topics that can float both ways, especially on health and fitness, that the whole mind body connection. I mean, there's just such a strong
Hmm.
connection between the two. I just
Absolutely.
love that concept, the
Hmm.
huge passion for it.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
all right. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. I hope you guys all have a great day.
Thank you, Renee. See
Bye.
you.